Of course, we've got the interest rate decision out of the MPC in focus today, and we've got lower interest rates being anticipated. That means easier access to credit, but also putting a little more in the pockets of those who are exposed to debt. What implications do you see this having for the Kenyan consumer and the consumer market over in Kenya as a whole?
Well, thank you very much, Alishia. Very good observation there regarding the level of interest rates, also regarding the issue of the foreign exchange markets. Looking at it in terms of especially the past 2 years, the foreign exchange situation has been a major concern, and we've seen the central bank coming out strongly in terms of trying to put a check on that. I think the other factor that had concerned central bank a lot was the inflation levels, which were very high last year compared to where we are at the moment now. And looking at it in terms of the MPC decisions, especially relating to the CBR, we expect them to continue slashing, because at least at this moment, we're seeing a huge need in terms of ensuring that the level of the economy is still stable, and also ensuring that the liquidity situation is also sustained, especially looking at it in terms of the anticipation for the coming year.
I ask about the health of the consumer because we've got foreigners really piling into the likes of Uchumi. I mean, we had filings with the CMA showing that foreign investors owned close enough to 15% of the retail chain in November, compared to 7.5% in June last year. And that putting in the spotlight the kind of investment value they're seeing in the Kenyan consumer market right now.
Well, there's a lot of prospects, especially looking at it in terms of the fact that Kenya, in terms of the GDP growth, we recorded a very strong performance last year. And going into the new year, there's a lot of anticipation that the year is also going to perform very well. But looking at it in terms of the consumer point of view, definitely there has been a bit of a challenge, especially on the front of available disposable income as well as liquidity situations. And just like we have been observing, the interest rates have been a major challenge in terms of financing and even accessibility to credit. But look at it in terms of what the central bank is doing, trying to also empower the consumer to be able to be capable to borrow and even to have access to credit to be able to finance some of these ventures. And look at it in terms of going forward, I think there's also a bit of liquidity on the market, which is also being felt in the sense that we have a lot of foreign investor participation. But local, just like you mentioned, I think most investors as well as consumers are a bit concerned because we still have elections that are coming up. So I guess most of them could be piling up and are a bit cautious about being actively participating in the market. But look at it in terms of going forward, there's already investor confidence, especially coming from the foreigners, which might end up piling over into the retail investors as well.
What's your view on current valuations as far as Uchumi is concerned? We've got that share price sitting at about 1920 shillings at this stage, but many saying that they see it passing the 25 shilling mark.
Well, looking at it in terms of Uchumi, I think more of what we are seeing right now is more of perception as opposed to the actual value of the share, because I think looking at it from a historical point of view, that share had been stuck at around 14 shillings for quite a while. But looking at it in terms of their profitability, in terms of their regional expansion, in terms of their placement within the region, there's a lot of anticipation that the company going forward is going to be able to perform well. And especially the restructuring arrangement that they've already put in place, they are planning to do a rights issue. Going forward, there's a lot of anticipation that the company will do well. And hopefully, should the economy continue performing as it is, that's a stock to watch.
You mentioned that they're probably going to be going through with a rights issue. I mean, this is a company that has access to the capital markets, unlike Nakumatt, who has had quite a few challenges in that regard, Samuel. I mean, what are some of the challenges that Nakumatt faces, and do we see this coming through as a possible listing on the NSE anytime soon?
Well, looking at it in terms of Nakumatt, yes, it's a private company as compared to Uchumi. Uchumi has a lot of investor loyalty because it's already a listed company and already under CMA's watch. So in terms of access to capital, that's almost guaranteed. But for Nakumatt, I think they have been able to expand significantly over the past couple of years, especially during the period in which Uchumi was in the woods. So hopefully they'll be able to still continue with the momentum. But in terms of capital, they are a bit of a challenge at the moment. And definitely going forward, they might have to consider listing so they can be able to have access to more capital. But look at it in terms of their position in the market. They are still very strong and stable, especially in terms of the milestone that they've already made in terms of compared to where Uchumi is. So Uchumi seems like it's still beginning to pick up, but Nakumatt still has a level of advantage over Uchumi. But hopefully in terms of capital, definitely that's something they might need to really consider. They were planning to list, but I think that has not been able to come through to the fore.
Samuel, very quickly, a quick look at Carb Asset. Of course, it sits as an indirect beneficiary of the consumer market. It's exposed to food industry growth in particular. Your view on Carb Asset, because it was the second highest gainer on the NSE in yesterday's session.
Carbacid is the potential for Carbacid is very strong. In a sense, it's a monopoly stock because it's the only industrial company that sells that is listed that sells carbon dioxide, which is a very key ingredient in some of these things that we are talking about in terms of beer, preservatives, and those other kind of products. And look at it in terms of the new companies that are coming into Kenya. Carbacid is set to gain very strongly on that front, and that's one share to actually watch going forward.